Hi, everybody. Tonight we are going to talk about an introduction to a sensory healthy diet. And our focus really here is it being part of your daily routine because when it is something extra that needs to be done every day, that's when it's no longer really healthy. It just becomes a sensory diet. And just like with eating, dieting can be helpful to us or it can be done in an unhealthy way. So, what is a sensory healthy diet? It's made up of sensory experiences that nourish your sensory needs throughout the day. It is part of your daily routine that takes into account those sensory processing patterns and preferences that you have been observing. A sensory healthy diet is not isolated activities that take away time from your daily routine. And when we really think about this sensory healthy diet, we want to think about things that we're already doing that we can add in these sensory healthy moments really to enrich our day. So, as we go through this, I'll give you some examples from my own family to help you kind of see what might work for your family. So, in the morning routine, we want to think about how each family member prefers to wake up. Is it slow and quiet or all engines running? And does this change either with the seasons or temperature? Is it harder? It's harder for me to get up this time of year when it's cold and dark than it is in the middle of summer when it's nice and warm and I can just pop out of bed. So my morning routine and what is sensory healthy for me looks a little bit different this time of year. It's definitely slower. I need to do a little bit more nurturing and that may be true for your family members as well. So, a sensory seeker might be ready for shower or bath time, a quick game of tag, all before breakfast, right? We really want to feed those senses first thing in the morning. The sensory sensitive person might need a slower wake up, dim lights, quiet voices. They might prefer to maybe even eat in their bedroom if it's a busy, noisy household, right? That might be a better sensory healthy start for them. The sensory avoider would have their morning pre-planned and maybe even practice the night before. That way, there are no or hopefully as few as possible sensory triggers first thing in the morning, right? We want to keep that sensory system in that rest and digest state, not fight or flight. So we don't want any fight or flight cues first thing in the morning for our sensory avoider. For our bystander, they're going to need a lot more support and cues from the environment to keep getting ready. They're going to miss time cues. They're going to miss maybe, cues and reminders from the family. Like they're not going to see everybody getting ready and getting moving first thing in the morning. They're going to miss a lot of those cues. So they may need technology maybe to give them some reminders or explicit support to help them move through their morning. Meal times. Typically, we have 3 meal times a day. In my house, we may have 4 or more. Snacks, third breakfast, all those things, secondsies. And we want mealtime should be really part of a breathe in routine, meaning that's a quiet time after a more active time. So this can be fairly easy, maybe for lunch and dinner, but can be a little bit more challenging first thing in the morning, right? So there's some sort of activity first, and then there is a quiet or a breathe in and breathe out routine. Meal times can be especially difficult for our sensory sensitive or sensory avoiding people. There's a lot of sights and smells and textures, right? It can be really overwhelming. So, making sure that there's a sensory safe food at each meal can help reduce anxiety. And giving the sensory avoiders or sensory sensitive people a place to be when food is being prepared can also be helpful if it's just a little bit too overwhelming to like hear it, see it, smell it. And then by the time they get to the point where they'd be tasting it, they're already in shutdown. We want to think about how our sensory diet can nourish family members at meal times. So we really want to save sensory exercises for building new skills at low pressure times. We don't really want meal times to be high pressure times where we are working on building sensory skills. So if we have someone who is tactile defensive, they have a lot of issues with the feeling of touch. We don't want to be working on different textures during our typical mealtime, right? We can save that for when we're doing our sensory exercises. And then figuring out how do we all connect during meal times where we can meet everybody's sensory needs and social needs. So, if you're having breakfast with your kids or one parent is there, during dinner, how can that be of a time of connection and a time to honor everybody's sensory needs? For school and work, these are places that are not often designed with sensory health in mind. There might be too much sitting, too much noise. The lights overhead might be fluorescent. There might be a lot of visual clutter on the walls, especially in schools. That can be a big problem. So, whenever we can incorporate a sensory break into the day, so getting up to get a drink, using the bathroom, that can change the sensory experience. And I certainly know in schools, this can be looked at as task avoidant, and they're just using the drink or the bathroom break as a way to avoid doing their work. But that's a little bit of education from the family to the school in that this is actually a sensory break and they need these opportunities to get up and move and change the sensory experience that they're having. Children should be encouraged to move during recess time, and free play is really the best way for children to meet their own sensory needs. So, whenever we can, advocating for free play during recess and making sure that that's a nice unstructured period of time. It's a shame that most recesses are not actually long enough anymore to kind of get a full cycle in for children of meeting sensory needs and being able to calm down again. That's typically 45 to 60 minutes of free play. And I know that most school recesses are not that long anymore. And so what happens is, kids are getting wound up, right? They're getting moving and they're getting to that point where they're starting to meet their sensory needs, and then recess ends and they haven't finished that cycle, and they might actually come in and be more wound up and worked up than they were before, and then that kind of becomes a complaint from the teacher. Then the next recess is taken away, and this can really become a downward spiral. So just keep that in mind for school, for work. We have a lot more freedom as far as getting up, taking a sensory break. A lot of fitness watches will give you an alarm or a buzz if you've been sitting for too long. Those are great reminders just to get up and move your body. Any office furniture that you can customize to your own sensory needs, whether that's supportive or movement. And then things like what we can see. Can you see out a window? Can you see a painting that you like? Can you put up pictures of your family? Or do you need less? Do you need kind of like a blank cubicle space to work? So thinking about those can be helpful in making sure that your space is sensory healthy, but also incorporating some sensory healthy breaks into your day is important. After school, after work, and play transitions. Transitions can be challenging for kids. They can be challenging for adults. I know for me that transition from like work to play or, kind of coming home can be challenging for me sometimes. So if this is a challenge, if the after school time is a challenge, address the physical needs first. Make sure child goes to the bathroom. Make sure they get a good hydrating drink. So that should be water of some sort. And then a high protein snack is a great way to kind of kick off that after school time. Try to block out whenever possible 20 minutes to unwind after school or work. So for some adults, that might be interacting with a partner, that might really be, kind of doing that brain dump. Or for other people, it's like, just leave me alone for 20, like, let me get in the door, let me get my shoes off. Give me 20 minutes. And it's really healthy to teach our children to respect that time. If mom or dad needs a little bit of time when they get home, to be like, Mommy, I'm so glad you're home. Give a hug and then give a break and let mom or dad come home, get their shoes off, put their stuff away, take a couple minutes to decompress and then come back. And, teaching our kids, remember, mommy needs a little bit of time before y'all go bombard her and talk with her. And then she'll be ready for you. And that can be the same for kids. Sometimes they really need that connection and cuddle with a parent right when they get home. And other kids really just need like 20 minutes in the room, kind of doing their own thing where nobody's saying anything to them, demanding anything from them. And that's really going to be the most sensory healthy thing for them. And then thinking about how you can provide a supportive environment to transition back to home. So a calming corner, um, where you're going to introduce homework, or if there's other demands for the evening routine. And then whenever possible, encourage a free play time before dinner and homework, and really letting that be child-led. One of the things that has been a hit in my house lately is the floor is lava. So we're doing a lot of creative obstacle course building. It's very free play, it's very child directed, and that really allows the kids to just kind of have that let down period before they're either going to homework or they're going to sit down to dinner. So again, that free play time is a little bit of a breathe out in our routine. So we're thinking, breathe out, right? We have all this activity and then breathe in, nice and calm, right? So bedtime, oh, bedtime. Each child, right, might kind of need a different style of bedtime routine. So when we have multiple children, we have to figure out how we can manage those bedtime routines together. Some children really do well with some roughhousing to release tensions right before bed, and other children really need quiet, right? They need that quiet bath and massage. But if the quiet bath and massage is not working for your kid, do not shy away from that kind of roughhouse chase, tackle, tickle play, because for some kids, that's really, really what they need to kind of let off steam before bed. So one thing I like to do, and you can do this with children as young as like 3, ask them what their ideal bedtime routine would look like, and then figure out what part of that can you do? And this includes all of the adults, right? We all kind of have what our ideal bedtime routine would look like. Like for me, I love to shower at night. I do not like to shower in the morning. For me, that is very sensory adversive. So for me, sensory health wise, right? A shower at night, put on my diffuser, my quiet, sleepy music, heavy blankets, right? That would all be part of my ideal bedtime routine. For my kids, not so much, right? I have one child who likes more of that rough and tumble play, another child who could probably read an hour or more of books, just kind of cuddling up. So thinking about what each person's ideal bedtime routine would look like, and then, figuring out how you can get as close to that as possible without bedtime dragging on for hours and hours. So it really should be something that, everybody can go to bed feeling positive and confident about. So as children get older, what self-selected sensory supports can be offered for bedtime? So when we're thinking about, older kids, can they have a weighted blanket, compression sheets, stuffies, aromatherapy diffuser, music, and then minimizing access to screens or phones at night because that does disrupt nighttime sleep. Our parent routines are a mix of work and childcare responsibilities, um, care around the house, right? All of those are part of our routines and part of challenges that we might have that we can incorporate some of our sensory healthy lifestyle into. So a lot of times as parents, we're kind of told, well, you need more self-care. And really, self-care is sleep, hydration, eating, and boundaries. And if you can manage to get a good night's sleep, maintain your hydration, making sure you're drinking a lot more than you probably think you need, um, eating often before you prepare, a full meal for the kiddos, and then setting boundaries as needed, whether that's, I don't want you climbing on me, you can't jump on me, or I want to close the door when I go to the bathroom. Those are going to help set you up for a sensory healthy day. If you are not doing those things, that really sets you up to be much more dysregulated. So when you start to pay attention to your own sensory needs, that's how you can weave in little things throughout the day to help yourself stay more regulated and to really go ahead and start to have a more sensory healthy lifestyle, which really does make you a calmer, happier, more regulated parent. So, our parent sensory needs vary a lot from a child's. We're often, hopefully, better at modulating our responses. We have more coping skills. But when we honor our needs and our preferences, we really are better at parenting. We're more patient. We're better able to help our kids handle their big feelings. So think about what your favorite sensory experiences are. Is it that hot cup of coffee or tea in the morning, going for a run every day? If you can honor at least one sensory healthy experience every day, how do you think that would change your parenting? And I would love if you would drop a comment on this video if you could tell me, like, how do you think being able to do one sensory nourishing experience each day would change your parenting? So to wrap it up and keep it under 20 minutes, think about the sensory qualities of each part of your daily routine. So again, an observation period. Is it dark or light? Is it calming or alerting? Is this a natural or a man-made thing that we're going to be seeing? How does this align with the needs of the person or people experiencing it? Sounds, is it quiet, noisy? Are these voices or music? Is the sound recorded or live? Are they natural sounds? And can you engage everybody with music or have a period of quiet time before a certain part of your routine? And then movement. How much movement is each person in your family getting every day? What ways do they most like to move their body? My son loves like kind of the jumping, really whole body movements, a lot more intensity and impact. Whereas my daughter, she likes more of like big space movement. So running and dancing, things that exploring, things that have a lot of space to their movements. And do your children in particular reach a period of maximal exertion at least once a day? So there's a lot of research out there that points to children being able to regulate themselves better when they have this period of maximal exertion. So they're doing something that really requires all of their strength all at once. And that can be really helpful in regulating their attention, regulating their activity levels. So see if you notice, is your child having one of these moments at least once a day? So sensory healthy experiences that are part of your normal daily routine are the best way to create a sensory healthy diet. And I would love to know how you are going to begin creating a sensory healthy diet for your family. Thanks.